If you've ever tried drifting on a wheel in Gran Turismo 7, you've probably already discovered it's a completely different challenge to using a controller. Most people either overcorrect, spin instantly, or never manage to hold a drift long enough to link corners together. In this video, I'm going to show you the 4 biggest techniques that transform my drifting on a wheel. These aren't complicated tricks, they're simple habits that make the car much easier to control. So, let's jump in to tip number 1. Okay, so tip number 1, make sure you're using a car that is actually good for drifting in the first place. So I'm going to share this tune with you, which Cyrus, who was the guy who taught me how to drift, was kind enough to share with me. It's in the Toyota GR86 RZ21. We've got comfort tires on the front and rear, comfort hards. That's going to help to encourage it to slide because it's only got 261 brake horsepower, street suspension of fully customizable differential 30-60-30, fully customizable ECU, a racing air cleaner, a racing silencer, hydraulic handbrake for those of you that are lucky enough to have a handbrake attachment on your rig or a button that you can reach on your wheel. I, unfortunately, am not lucky enough to have either of those. These RS wheels are a little bit out of reach, maybe in the future. And finally, a steering angle adapter. So that's tip number 1. Make sure you've got an appropriate car to drift in the first place. Okay, the next tip is going to be your wheel settings. Now I'm going to pop up on the screen my wheel settings that I'm using for when I drift. Now you can copy these down, play around with them, see what you think feels best for you, because it is a little bit of personal preference. But the main thing that I'm going to say that you really should change if you want to make drifting easier in Gran Turismo 7 is the steering sensitivity. See, if you have it set to auto, which means Gran Turismo will automatically, depending on what car you're in, make sure that the angle is appropriate. But the problem with that is you have to turn the wheel a very long way to get full lock left and right. And when I've drifted in real life, that just isn't the case. It doesn't feel the same. It feels like you have a lot more travel in that wheel than you actually do when you drift in real life. So the best thing to do is turn up the sensitivity. I have it set to 520, and that reduces the distance you have to turn the wheel to catch the slide when it's going left or right. It is essential to get the right angle when you start to slide the car matched with your throttle inputs, which we'll get to later. But the first thing to make things easier is the steering sensitivity. Everything else is a little bit of personal preference. Okay, tip number 3, and this is more of a training aid and drill to complete before you start going to track. Now, what we are trying to do here at Fuji, this is a nice wide circuit, that's why I've chosen Fuji, is complete donuts, controlled donuts, keeping the car in track limits and staying roughly in the same region while completing circles. So what you'll find is when we accelerate and the wheel starts spinning, I want you to initiate some steering, get that turn going, and feel how when you lift on and off the throttle and get it within that sweet spot, it will start to grip more, it will start to slide more. And I also want you to use your brake pedal as like a little bit of correction. This is hard mode, by the way. If you had handbrake, you would just tap your handbrake a little bit as you need it to slide more instead of the throttle. So this is maximum difficulty. So I will try and show you what I mean and talk you through it. So first thing, let's get these wheels spinning. And then we get a slide going. And as we feel the car starting to slide more or less, we're going to lift on and off the throttle, applying more and less, trying to keep it online all the time, trying to keep it within a certain sweet spot of these track limits without fully exceeding them, staying in the same place. You can see you just need one hand while you're doing it in first gear. You don't need to change anything. So that's going to be your first drill to master. And once you start to tune in with the car and with the throttle inputs and the steering angle, you can move on to the next stage. Okay, so we're at the point where we've got some good wheel settings. We're in a good car with a decent tune that can drift, and we are starting to develop our feel and touch of how to control the slide with the throttle and the steering angle, and occasionally delicate taps of the brake, or if you're lucky enough, like I said, to have a handbrake, just to rip that handbrake and get that slide going again. It is easier. It's a lot easier with a handbrake. Now we're going to start thinking about setting the car up and getting the weight transferred and using that to our advantage to find the right lines through a race circuit. So let's go to track and give you a little bit of a slow talk through about how to negotiate a circuit like Tsukuba, which is an extremely satisfying track to drift at. Okay, now we're going to talk about weight transfer and lines. And don't normally drive in chase cam, but I want you to see this, and it's easy to see this in chase cam. You can see that the car is rocking left and right, and what I want you to notice is when you get the car rocking one way or the other, that's the way it wants to slide. And you want to time these turning inputs at the point where you need the back end turning in the opposite direction. So in order to take turn one successfully at Tsukuba, ideally, instead of being over to the left-hand side nice and early like you would in a normal race car, you actually want the car over to the right-hand side. So when you approach it, and we turn it from left to right, the car starts to slide into this corner, and you can get the rear end traveling around it and carry better drifts. Not the best drift there, but wasn't carrying enough speed. So that is the thought process that you want to have into each and every corner that you're coming up to. So as we come over to this left-hander, we get it over to the right and then kick the back end round, so then we can carry this slide all the way through, balancing the throttle inputs. Even for this one here, we get over to the left, then we go over to the right, so then when we apply the throttle, we can really get a big slide going. So let me show you what that looks like without crashing in a full lap. Right, what you're going to see here is weight transfer from one direction to the other, and then a lift off the throttle to initiate this slide. That is how we're going to try and set up each and every one of the entries to the corners. And then you can control this slide through the techniques you've practiced by doing donuts at Fuji. All the time thinking about where the car needs to be and how the weight wants to be transferring into the entries of these corners. So because we set that up to the right-hand side, the left-hand side, sorry, into turn one, we can carry a nice long slide all the way through turn one. Now I need the car over to the left initially so I can get the weight transferred and carry a nice long slide through there as well. Again, over to the right, so I can kick it back across and then carry a nice little slide through. Even if I did miss that apex, well, this will be good enough for a tutorial. Now, this is where a clutch would come in, a handbrake would come in clutch, but you can still do this without. If you had a handbrake there, you could just tap the handbrake, and as you were turning in, it'd be much easier. But even without a handbrake, I can tell you that drifting is very difficult to do on a wheel. But with these techniques, it can be done. And when you do it, it is some of the most fun you can have playing this game. I could happily do this for hours. There you go. And just to show you how much easier it is on a controller, even though I don't really use it, with handbrake, I'm just going to do, this is literally my first attempt. You can see how much easier it is to control these slides. And then with handbrake, we just tap the handbrake. I don't even play with my controller anymore, but this is so easy. What we do here is, if we had some handbrake on the wheel, we would have just tapped handbrake just there. This is my first attempt. I can tell you the one that I did on the wheel, that's not my first attempt. Very hard talking and giving instructions and multitasking. Don't tell me I'm going to beat my score on controller first attempt, am I? So handbrake here, just handbrake, kick it in, and then we can carry the slide by getting back on the throttle. Even if I go on the grass, I don't have to worry on controller. Just kick it from right to left, from right to left. Try and get a big slide on this final. Okay. Is it going to be higher? Is it? No. Okay, it's not higher. That was literally, I promise you, my first attempt on controller. That's how easy it is on controller. You just tap the handbrake when you need to, get it sliding, and just press left and right and keep the throttle in. Poof. It's tough for us wheel users out there trying to drift. If you're here to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you could do me a favor before you go though, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe for future content. Also, in the comments, I want to know, which one of these 4 tips did you find the most helpful? Or alternatively, if you're still struggling, let me know in the comments and I'll see whether I can give you some more tips and pointers so you can start enjoying drifting just like I am now. Well, that's it for today's video. So, from the fastest snake in the world, it's over now. Take care and thanks for watching.